Greetings. Can you all hear me in the back? Yes? Welcome to the new faculty orientation for MGH. My name is Ted Stern. I'm the interim director for the Center for Faculty Development and director of the Office of Clinical Careers. And we're here to welcome you to the MGH as new members of the faculty. Now, some of you may be wondering whether you're really new because you may have trained here, but you're still new faculty members even if you've trained here. Let's get a rough show of hands. How many of you are people that have been through residency, fellowship, graduate school, etc., here at the MGH? And how many are totally brand spanking new to the MGH? Pretty much equally divided. And as we think about these types of divisions and assortments, let's also find out how many of you identify yourselves primarily as investigators? A little bit more than half. Primarily as clinicians? Nearly half. Primarily as teachers or educators? So you will be the person who will speak for the entire teaching and education division here at the hospital. So whether you're brand spanking new to the institution or whether you've been here before, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to get several hours where you get the lay of the land of what the MGH is. We're going to be presenting you about what the MGH is and its history, about the Mass General Physicians Organization, about the research community, about the teaching opportunities, the opportunities for research, and all the different clinical things that here at the hospital. And part of that information that we'll be doing over the next 3 hours, we're going to start here by having leadership of the MGH and the MGPO do their talks. Then about an hour from now, we'll divide the groups. The investigators will stay here in this room and have other research-based presentations. And then the clinicians and teachers will walk a few minutes up to the historic Ether Dome, not for a demonstration of ether, but to have a discussion of clinical and teaching expertise and opportunities. Then we'll all rejoin here and talk more about how to work with Harvard Medical School, to talk more about promotion, to talk about how you can gear yourself up and position yourself up for different promotions and understand promotion criteria, the CV, and the ranks. So at that point, I want to gear us up for our first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Peter Slavin. He's the president of the Mass General Hospital, and Peter will give you the perspective of the Mass General Hospital. Peter, welcome.
This will be different.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm just trying. Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the MGH, both and to the faculty, both those of you who trained here and those of you who are entirely new to the institution. I'm a little bit nostalgic in that just the other day I received my 35-year pin which is when I started my residency here in medicine 35 years ago. And as they say, the days are long, but the years fly by. It seems hard to imagine that 35 years have passed since that time. But I hope you enjoy your experience here, the contributions you can make to our patients, their loved ones, the community, or your field, and really take advantage of all the opportunities here at Mass General, across the Harvard system, and within the Boston community overall. What I thought I would try to do, and do it pretty quickly, is just give you a brief overview of the hospital that you're now on the faculty of, and try to save some time for any questions that you might have. But this is our mission statement, and is really the statement that guides our day-to-day activities, and it reads, guided by the needs of our patients and their families, We aim to deliver the very best health care in a safe, compassionate environment, to advance that care through innovative research and education, and to improve the health and well-being of the diverse communities we serve. I think if you looked at the mission statements of other teaching hospitals around the country, they, at least at the surface, seem very similar. I guess I would point out two distinctive features of our mission statement. One is the introductory clause, that this is all about the needs of our patients and their families. And this second distinctive feature is that most teaching hospitals describe three missions: clinical care, research, and education. We explicitly describe four. And in the last clause, improving the health and well-being of the diverse communities we serve. That encompasses our community health mission, which we are extremely committed to. We have, about 10 years ago, developed, I guess, what I would call, if the mission statement is the purpose of the hospital, the credo and boundary statements that I'm about to show you are sort of the equivalent of the Bill of Rights. And the credo statement is a statement of what beliefs, behaviors we value here within the community. Again, the first priority is the well-being of our patients. Our primary focus is giving the highest quality care. Colleagues are our greatest assets. Teamwork is essential. So these are all the things we want you to do and to believe as you carry out your work here. The boundary statement is sort of the flip side of this, the things that we don't want people to believe or engage in, like knowingly ignoring our policies, criticizing anyone for raising a safety concern, speaking or acting disrespectfully toward another member of the community, engaging or tolerating or failing to address abusive, disruptive, discriminatory, culturally insensitive behaviors, looking up private information outside of your job responsibilities, and working here while impaired. We ask you on a regular basis to acknowledge that you receive these documents, and will uphold them, and we really take them very seriously. So I hope you have a chance to read them and agree that they make sense for an organization like this. Little history. So we are the third oldest general hospital in the country. The original building of the hospital is shown here on the left. It's the Bulfinch building. And the building on the right is one of the former homes of Harvard Medical School until it moved to a couple of different sites until it landed in the Longwood Medical area. You can see that the river used to come out right to the banks of the hospital, but in the 1800s, much of Back Bay was created through landfill. There used to be two hills as tall as Beacon Hill here in Boston, and the other two were raised and used to create landfill here in Boston to create Back Bay and much of the land on which the hospital is currently situated. This is what the hospital campus looks like now, and this does include the Lunder building, so it's pretty much up to date. So, and the Bulfinch building is now encased by dozens of other buildings that now surround it. We, over the last 208 years, have developed a couple of very important affiliations. The first actually was established when we were created, which is the relationship with Harvard Medical School. We were the original teaching hospital affiliated with Harvard Medical School, and that relationship remains very strong. And then in 1994, there was a lot of uncertainty about the future of healthcare, a lot of feeling that things like managed care, capitation were going to adversely affect the future of teaching hospitals, and the leadership of the MGH and the Brigham began just talking and agreed that it probably would make sense in an effort to protect what we held near and dear to work together going forward, and that's what gave rise to Partners Healthcare. So that's been in place since 1994, and I think is arguably the most successful marriage between two teaching hospitals within the country. Other organizations have joined Partners since then. Some of them are actually part of the MGH, like Cooley Dickinson, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Wentworth Douglas, the MGPO that you'll be hearing about shortly, and our Institute of Health Professions. And then there are other parts of the organization that dock either with the Brigham or directly with Partners. So Partners has become a very significant organization with I believe it's about 75,000 employees. It's the largest private employer within the state of Massachusetts. This is the MGH family. The corporation that was established by the state in 1811 is at the top, and it has a number of different subsidiaries. The two most notable ones being the General Hospital, which is the hospital, the Mass General Physicians Organization, but then you see the others as well. McLean legally is still part of the MGH, but more or less operates independently and is led by Scott Roush. And then I'm not going to go into detail on this chart, but we have a number of committees that help operate the hospital. ECOR, for those of you interested in research, several different clinical committees. And I think one of the great strengths of this hospital is the relationship with the physicians and the MGPO. Our management structure is highly integrated, our interests are highly aligned, and I think the relationship between the hospital and the physicians here is almost unique in terms of how positive and reinforcing it is. I think we have in most teaching hospitals, when I speak to my counterparts around the country, they spend a lot of time fighting with the physicians over who's in charge, who's going to pay for what, and those fights literally, they rarely happen around here, and we really work in partnership with the physicians to try to figure out how to deliver the best care, advance our mission, and that's a much more enjoyable environment and constructive environment to work in. A few words about our 4 different missions. So we have 20 different clinical departments like medicine, surgery, et cetera, that are all led by chiefs of service who have certain responsibilities within the hospital, certain responsibilities within the MGPO. One of those services, or a couple of those services, relate to kids. We're the second largest provider of pediatric care in the region, so we take care of people regardless of how old they are. Increasingly, we are organizing care into multidisciplinary centers like the Cancer Center and the Heart Center. And we were the first hospital in Massachusetts to be designated as a magnet hospital and have been redesignated several times since then. We operate over 1,000 beds, which is the largest number in New England, about 50,000 admissions, 44,000 surgical procedures, almost 10 births a day, and close to 2 million outpatient visits per year, 2/3 of which happen on this campus, and about 1/3 happen at our health centers and our suburban practices. In terms of research, we have the largest hospital-based research program in the country. About 8,500 people are engaged in that research. It says here that our budget in FY18 was $928 million. That was true. We just totaled up FY19, and it was $1.013 billion. So I think we probably the first hospital ever to have $1 billion research program. And a couple of years ago, Nature Index ranked healthcare organizations by the publications they generated and their impact on biomedical research, and we were ranked number 1 in terms of the impact of our research effort as well. Education we are a very large clinical facility, a research institute, and a university with a major commitment to education. We obviously train medical students, residents, fellows, but also train nurses and people in the other health professions required to deliver care in this century. There's several thousand people who are training here at any given point in time. And then, as I said, community health is an extremely important part of what we do. We work hand in glove with City of Boston, Chelsea, Revere, Winthrop on trying to identify with the community what are their most important community health priorities, and then work collaboratively with them to initiate programs that are aimed at addressing those public health issues, often the social determinants of health. And so you can see some themes of the types of community health programs that we are engaged in. And we are the only hospital in the country that has received the major awards for community health from the AAMC and the American Hospital Association. We are the largest private employer in Boston, about just over 26,000 employees. This is a pie chart which shows the major role groups. The light blue in the lower left quadrant are nursing. Nursing is the single biggest segment of our workforce. We have about 4,000 nurses, but as you can see, it takes a village to operate an academic medical center like this. This is a pie chart which looks at our finances. In FY18, we generated about $5 billion in revenue, 3/4 of which came from our patient care activities, and the other quarter largely from our research program. And on the expense side, this is where we spent the money. We spent $4.7 billion that year, mostly on employee compensation and benefits, but also supplies and other miscellaneous expenses. And the difference between the $5 billion and the $4.7 billion on this slide is really our financial strategy. We try to generate about a 5 to 6% margin from operations every year that we can then sort of plow back into the future of the organization and make sure that we have great facilities, information systems, equipment, et cetera. And I'm just going to skip to one last slide before I open it up. And these are just some of the priorities that are staring us in the face, or not, these are what we're maybe most focused on at the moment within the management of the hospital and the PO. Quality and safety is always our top priority, and I think perhaps the biggest challenge that we're facing there is how busy we are. And the congestion that causes in places like the emergency room and the production pressure that it creates among our staff. And so that remains our top institutional quality and safety priority, is to figure out how to manage our capacity as effectively as possible, and that is an ongoing saga. We work very closely with the rest of Partners Healthcare to try to implement the Partners healthcare strategies. There's a huge initiative going on in digital health, another to open a bunch of ambulatory centers in the area. And Ann Klebansky, who used to be the director of the Center for Faculty Development, and appreciate Ted filling her shoes. Ann is now the CEO of Partners Healthcare and is doing a terrific job bringing people from across the system together to work collaboratively to try to advance the mission of Partners. Another thing that we are focused on is our people, and we are in the process of rolling out a sexual harassment prevention and training program so that we address that issue head on and make people understand what it is, feel comfortable if they experience it or witness it to speak up, and so I hope everyone in this organization is going to receive some sort of training in this area, and I hope you find it helpful and it makes the environment in which we all work a better one. Another thing that we're working on is a new building on Cambridge Street, and maybe I'll just go back to the map picture of the campus. So let's see here. So this is Cambridge Street right here. The river is obviously in that direction. Government Center up in this direction. And we are hopefully, I think tomorrow, we're going to get approval from Partners to move forward with this building. We still need approval from the city and the state to move forward. But we're basically going to clear this site here in the front of the hospital and build a new building to dramatically upgrade and expand our clinical facilities here. This new building will have almost 500 private rooms. It'll take us from being on the low end of private room percentage at about 34% up to close to 100%, which would be terrific. It'll be the home for our cancer and heart centers. It'll have some outpatient procedural and ambulatory space, and it'll have underground parking beneath it and retail on the first floor, including what I hope will be at least one or more restaurants. So that building, it's my hope that by sometime early next year, we will begin clearing that site and making way for this terrific new building. And it's currently called the Cambridge Street Project. If any of you are interested in naming it, where our development office is always available. You can find them on the web. It's going to be a pretty expensive building to build, and we're going to be relying on our supporters to help make this possible, as they have every time over the years. And actually that, and let me just close on two financial notes. I mentioned development, and the very last line here says comprehensive campaign. We just finished the second year of a fundraising campaign for this hospital. Our goal over 7 years is to raise $3 billion to support not only the construction of that building, but primarily programs. Historically, about 70% of the fundraising that we do supports research and clinical activities. Only about 10 or 15% supports construction. And so all of the departments are involved in this campaign, and we're 2 years into it and are running significantly ahead of where we hope to be at this point. This past year, we set a goal of raising $325 million in philanthropy, and we just closed the books and raised $592 million in philanthropy. So that program is going extremely well. And I would say at the heart of our philanthropic program are grateful patients who are just so moved by the experience they have here, the caring they receive, the expertise that they receive. That is the key to our success in fundraising. And what it enables is this virtuous cycle where some of those individuals provide us with resources that we can then reinvest into the future of the organization and deliver even better care in the future. The other item that's listed under financial is MGH MGPO program review. Even though the fundraising is going well, the underlying economics of being a teaching hospital in this era, and particularly in this state, is very challenging. We are seeing rate increases from both private and public payers of about 1%, 2% a year if we're lucky, and yet our expenses are going up much more rapidly than that. In this full employment economy, salary expenses are going up 2.5%, 3% or higher, and obviously supply expenses, particularly drug costs, are going up at a much more rapid rate. So we have over the last 5 or 10 years, and as far as the eye can see, have to figure out creative ways to bridge the gap between that revenue growth and the expense growth. And this program review process that we've been through or in the midst of is our effort to try to find creative ways to become more efficient, generate more revenue, and so far that program is going quite well. So let me stop there and put the mission back up on the board and see if there are any questions that you might have.
This is a wonderful opportunity to get questions answered by the president of the hospital. So Peter, what do you think is the thing that gives you the most pleasure about being here?
What I like most is when I hear from a patient or one of their loved ones about their experience here, and they comment on two things. One, they're blown away by the expertise of our staff, and two, they are blown away by how caring the staff is as well. That is what blew me away when I came here as a medical student and then a medical resident, and I think it's that culture which delivers that is our greatest and most important asset.
And for the people that are new faculty members here, what do you envision is going to be their greatest challenge in the next decade?
I think as we grow, there are a lot of forces that exist in medicine that risk sort of squelching that culture, and I think figuring out ways to sustain it, figuring out ways to sustain the joy of medicine, which has been a hallmark of this place for so many years. I think that's a challenge. I guess I would say that there are many things around here that I hope never change, like that culture of caring. But we also need to change in a variety of ways to keep up with the changes in medicine. There is a remarkable biologic revolution that is unfolding in medicine. We're at sort of arguably at the epicenter of it, and it's, by the show of hands, many of you are going to be directly involved in it. That's something that I would love us to play a disproportionate role in driving forward. and also applying it to the care of our patients. The same is true in digital health. I think we're still at the early stages of harnessing the power of IT to make care more accessible, better, safer, more efficient. And again, there are lots of people in this organization trying to drive that revolution, and we're also working hard to try to apply it to the day-to-day care of our patients. And last but not least, there is sort of an organizational and financial revolution that's going on in our country, and particularly here in Massachusetts, where we're trying to figure out, given changes in medical technology, given the aging of the population, how are we going to organize and finance care in a way that is economically sustainable for our country? And there's a lot of activity going on here at MGH and across partners to try to figure out how to bend the cost curve in a very thoughtful and effective way. So all those things need to change, but there's some things I hope never change around here.
Peter, thank you very much.
All right, well, thanks to all of you, and best of luck to you.
So we've just heard from the president of the hospital, Peter Slayton. Next up on the docket, we've got the CEO of the Mass General Physicians Organization, Dr. Tim Ferriss. Tim?
Hi. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I will. Thanks, Ted. So I'm not exactly sure what Peter just said, and I know I run the risk of repeating a lot of it. Peter and I work very closely together, and see each other. I think we've already been in 2 meetings today. We were in meetings at 7 this morning together. We will be in a meeting at 7 tonight together. And the reason why that's important is often within a hospital, one of the biggest rifts, political rifts, is the tension between the doctors and the hospital. And for those of you who've been in other places, that the tension can actually be very destructive. And the way we avoid making sure that that rift is not destructive and in fact enhances our ability to work together is that we spend a lot of time together. It literally is that simple. Like, we have to understand what each other's issues are. We have to hear from the physicians, and I become the conduit for the physician's voice. And Peter is the conduit for the voice of the hospital. And we have to make sure that we understand each other's perspectives and work out whatever differences may come up in the course of the day. And let's just say they come up on a day-to-day basis. It's part of management. So with that transition to now the doctor side of this, I'm going to say a little bit about what the Mass General Physicians Organization is, how it's structured, and the role that it plays here. And let me just get started. Okay, so I'm going to first of all contrast it with what it is not. And there are 2 common ways of organizing physicians in the United States. The first is an independent practice association. That really is just it's very loose. It's basically it's a contracting tool where a group of physicians contract together. There's also something called a physician hospital organization, which is literally and legally a joint venture between the doctors and the hospital. In academic medical centers, the doctors often are employed, but they work for the dean of the medical school. They are faculty in the medical school and their revenue actually goes to the dean, and then the dean distributes it after taking the dean's tax. Harvard is actually one of the very few places where that model, the model of the doctors work for the dean, that was the model that was invented at Hopkins. The model that was invented at Harvard was the hospital is actually separate from the dean and the medical school. And it turned out that the Hopkins model was the model that became true throughout almost all of the United States, and the Harvard model is just the Harvard model. So it is fairly unique in the United States. but it is what it is. It seems to be working well here. So up until 1994, the doctors at Mass General Hospital, like in the 90s throughout the country, were mostly in private practice. That changed in 1994 when several of the larger groups merged together into a group practice, the Mass General Physicians Organization. And then in 2001, Mass General joined many other, particularly academic medical centers, and became what is known as a closed staff hospital, which means at most community hospitals, if you are a physician practicing, the hospital must let you practice there unless they can show that you're a bad doctor or not credentialed or something. So they actually, you are at will allowed to practice within any hospital. That is not how a closed staff hospital works. A closed staff hospital, you have to be hired in, and those of you who are physicians here were, and so met a different bar, presumably, for being employed in this organization. That is also true, I will say, with our colleagues at the Brigham across the city. But the physicians organization at the Brigham, like many other academic organizations, is actually underneath the chiefs, and at Mass General we inverted that, and that was done in 1994. And so I'll just show up here, and I'll speak loudly enough. I know this is a terrible room for acoustics. But in 1994, we created a shell corporation, the MGH 1811 Corporation, and created underneath it a hospital and the physicians organization as equals in this corporation that is the 1811 Corporation. So it's a somewhat unique structure. We have 3,100 physicians. Approximately, it changes every day. It changes with the people in this room. And we have our own independent board of trustees. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. It is physicians organizations at community hospitals are very frequently, actually most frequently, for-profit organizations. And so we have our own mission. We are a multi-specialty medical group dedicated to excellence in innovation in patient care, teaching, and research. We, unlike the hospital, we have not updated that for our community hospital mission, our commitment to community health. That is in process, and the vision is very similar. I would say our underneath the wordsmithing here is really making sure that, and I'll use a little story. So a couple of months ago, I was touring the chairperson of the board of the National Health Service in England, Lady Dido Harding. And I was giving her a tour of MGH, and she walked up to some residents, and she said, "So where are you from, and why are you here?" And the residents said, "Oh, I'm from Texas, I'm from Alaska, I'm from Louisiana," or one was from the Philippines, one was from Italy. And she said, "Well, why did you come here?" And one of the residents said, "Because this is where the future of medicine is created, and I want to be part of that." So that was pretty powerful. She said, "I'm not sure anyone would have said that at any of the hospitals in the NHS." So that makes this a pretty special place. And so I really think of the MGPO's job as making sure that the administrative work, the overhead work, the interactions with the regulatory organizations, all of that stays as far out of the field of vision of the physicians as they do their work, so that they can take great care of patients, so that they can do their research, so they can invent the future of medical care, so they can do their teaching, and so they can improve the health of the communities we serve. So it is an organization that is dedicated to doing that. I will say, we, based on how you judge us, how we're judged, we do more or less well at that. We could definitely do better. There is way too much administrative overhead, particularly time spent on computers, documenting things. And new regulations that we have to comply with come out all the time. A brand new set of regulations just came out by the Board of Registration of Medicine, the state Borum, about a month ago. We are scrambling to try to comply with those regulations. They affect surgeons, and they are very challenging to comply with, but we will figure it out, and we will, over time, move the work necessary to comply with those new regulations as far away from the field of vision of our surgeons so that they can focus on surgery and not the administrivia that the regulating agencies and payer agencies make us comply with. So that's sort of our goal. I'm not going to go through our bylaws, but we have certain things, we have committee structures. I invite any of you who are interested to join our committees. I will say just in passing that official membership means being on the clinical staff here. That's not just MDs, but PhD scientists are not part of this. PhD psychologists, if you're clinically active, you are part of this. And this is there's some boundary issues here that we are examining over time about whether or not what's the right membership, and this is going to evolve over time. Sue Slagenhoff, who I'm sure has she been in here yet? So Harry's playing Sue. Is bugging me about, so what about our PhDs, and is there a professional organization for them? And I think there should be. And so that's an issue that she and I are actually meeting about later this month. So some of this stuff is in process, but I wanted to just invite you all, the physicians, to participate in the committees and the structures that try to keep our organization moving and evolving to meet that future that you guys are all inventing for medical care. Again, I won't go through my committee structure, but I did want to just say that it's a really big and diverse group of physicians. We've got about 230 primary care doctors and 2,800 specialists. Of those specialists, the more than 50% are more than half-time researchers. So it's very heavily weighted. The joke is that we have about 3,000 doctors and about 200 or 300 FTEs. I know that's a subtle joke if you're familiar with it. It's my kind of joke, though. So, this is basically, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need, this is sort of how I view it for physicians, which is, at the very bottom, the core administration tries to make sure that we handle all the billing and stuff in the back office so you don't have to worry about that. There are professional services, professional development. We run a lot of courses, leadership training courses, things like that. There's our strategy and forward-looking work where we're trying to meet that future, where we're trying to bend the cost curve. We're trying to implement experiments in the delivery of care. I mean, this is a very exciting time, and I'll get to it in a minute, about new ways of delivering care. And then at the very top, we do actually try, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, this is like nirvana, that's like perfect for fulfillment. And it's an aspiration, it's very hard to achieve, but that is our aspiration. And our surveys show repeatedly, because we do a survey of all of our physicians every 2 years, that 88% of the physicians here feel great satisfaction with their career. That is a very high percentage for one organization to say that 88% of people, of the physicians working here, feel either highly satisfied or very highly satisfied with their career. We're very proud of that. It's not all roses for sure, but it's something that we keep our eye on and want to try to constantly achieve. So I said a little bit about the hospital and the MGH. There are certain areas where the physicians lead. There's certain areas where Mass General Hospital leads. And then there are certain areas where we have to share together by definition. This goes over some of that. And then we try to communicate. It's very hard to communicate to all of the physicians about all the things that are going on. We're constantly trying new things. Like, for example, a couple years ago, we started doing these short videos. Maybe people enjoy watching those more than reading an email. Who knows? What I constantly hear feedback is, "Oh, I never heard about this." Invariably, I could document that they received 6 emails on that subject. But frankly, how can I blame them? I delete over 150 emails from my inbox every single day, just like useless. And do I do that to some that are not useless? I'm sure I do. My sensitivity and specificity for picking what is important and what is not important is not perfect. So communication in this organization is a challenge. We are always looking for tips on how to do it better. So if you have ideas, please let me know. There are different header. One of the things we try to do is put headers on them. Like if it's from the MGPO and we think it's important, we put a header on it. Hopefully that in the swiping process is more likely to be seen. Very, very important. What does it mean to work in an organization and feel good about it? It fundamentally comes down to being part of a team where you feel respected, right? That who you are, for who you are, and your contributions are respected and acknowledged. So we have the MGPO has a number of different programs, all the way from sort of the basic civility, where the tolerance for bullying or harassment is 0 across this organization, all the way to applauding people who go above and beyond, and everything in between. So one of the things is what we're trying right now is, if you see someone else do something that you think is great, we have an online comment where you can tell the community here at MGH, hey, listen, I just saw this person do something that was above and beyond, and I want to celebrate them. Those are the kinds of behaviors that we want to cultivate, because that's the kind of community, personally, I want to be a part of. And I think probably most of you do as well. And then just our overarching goals, the best possible patient care, cost-effective, and including optimization of e-care. We have a lot of work to do to improve e-care. It's getting better, but a lot more work to do. Make it a better place to work, practice medicine, and pursue an academic career. Achieve new standards of excellence in service in our business and administrative functions. That's on my team. And advocate effectively for patients and physicians. So one of the things we do, we're the largest physician group in New England. I spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill. I actually go to Washington pretty frequently. I serve on a couple of federal committees that advise the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So we advocate for better patient care and the policies that enable better patient care. That's not always the same thing as paying doctors more, just to be clear about that. And that's what the MGPO stands for. So do I have time for questions, Ted, or I caught Ted at I'm going to take questions. Someone must have a question. I'm very patient. I can tolerate the silence. Wow, is this just postprandial, or?
Well, we could imagine why people would be reluctant to ask questions. So what is it that you enjoy most about your job?
What do I enjoy most about my job? You know what I enjoy most? It's very clear. I've been in this job 2 years, and I started going to different divisions and departments and spending half a day with people doing their jobs. And I had no idea what was going on in this place. Like, it is absolutely tremendous. So the pathology techs that work in pathology, like, oh my goodness, the work that they do is extraordinarily exquisite, detailed, and so much of what all the other doctors do depends on them doing their job really well. And we have an amazing team of people, and I was just totally unaware of the complexity of what they do and how they contribute. And then I go to upstairs in this building to one of the OCT labs, optical coherence tomography. Who's working in that space? Anyone here? No one? So someone, great. So some of the highest research density space on this planet is upstairs in this building, where there are these levitating tables that do these incredible work where you use lasers to image nanoscale molecules in the visual range and show it on a screen by analyzing terabytes of data in seconds. That's extraordinary. That's happening that's 4 floors up here, right? So what I love most about my job is when I get out and see what people are doing here and think, wow, that's really incredible.
So you get out to see what others are doing. What about if the people in here want to find out what you and the people in the MGPO are doing? Is there a way that...
No, it's all closed doors. No, no, actually, Peter and I both welcome people shadowing us. Residents shadow us almost every day, not right now. There's a resident shadowing me, or a fellow or somebody. So absolutely welcome that. Absolutely welcome meeting with people who want to come, and I absolutely want to hear about ways that I can help improve the work life, the situation for our junior faculty here.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Okay.
So part of what we're doing here is giving you a sense of what a hospital leadership is like, how accessible they are, how you can reach out to them, and how they can reach out to you and build a network that makes it all possible. So Tim, thanks very, very much.
Thanks. Thanks.
Now, before we go to the next part of this, I want to remind you that each of you have a book in front of you that has a lot of slide decks that are being shown today, that are part of the background information that will be a place that you can turn to for a refresher course. And as we think about this program, remember that we also want your feedback for how we're doing here at Oral Youth Hospital. We've created this program today based upon feedback from prior sessions, and that's one of the reasons why we've divided up the next hour. For the investigators to stay here, and for the clinicians and teachers to move up to the Etherdome for the next hour. The session that will be here will be moderated by Harry Orr, raising his hand right there, who's the Senior Vice President for Research, and as Peter said, overseeing the largest hospital-based research program in the nation. So at this point, we're going to leave the investigators here. Clinicians and researchers will head with us so we can go upstairs and continue our session. Then we'll reconvene here in an hour, where we'll talk more about the medical school, the Center for Clinical Development, promotion, and how you can all develop and create the careers that you hope for. And there will be coffee. Thanks very much. Hello. We're back for our last section of the day. Hope you had a good break. Hope you stayed hydrated and are now ready to hear about the relationship between you and the Harvard Medical School. And speaking for the Harvard Medical School is Bethany Westland, who's the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs at Harvard Medical School, and she'll be one of the people instrumental in helping you achieve your academic promotions, and she'll guide us to what Harvard hopes for, expects, and how you can interact with Bethany and Harvard. Bethany?
Well, Thank you, and thank you for the Center for Faculty Development at MGH for inviting me to come and speak. I'm very happy to come and talk to you. And so welcome to the Faculty of Medicine. The Faculty of Medicine includes all of the faculty who are appointed through Harvard Medical School and also through the Harvard School of Dental Medicine. And there are representatives of both of those faculty here at MGH. So for anybody who is new to the Boston area and perhaps hasn't made it over to the Longwood Medical area yet, this is a picture of Harvard Medical School. That building in the center with the flag on top is an administrative building. That's where the Office for Faculty Affairs is located. And the buildings on either side are research or teaching related to the medical school. So today I'm going to talk about a number of topics. I'm going to start with some faculty demographics. I'll then talk a little bit about promotion basics, speak to some HMS leadership coming here from MGH, some faculty development opportunities, and then other ways to connect to the HMS community. So here we go with some demographics. So this is a pie chart of the Faculty of Medicine, and it includes all of the faculty, full-time and part-time. And so together that includes over 11,000 faculty members, most of whom are at the hospitals and other HMS affiliates. 9,395 of those people are full-time, and the other 2,000 or so are part-time. And you can see here the breakdown. 40% of the faculty are at the rank of instructor, another 26% at the rank of assistant professor, and then there's another quarter that together, so associate professor is about 14%, professor about 11%, and then the remaining 9% are lecturers or senior lecturers. And again, this includes both part-time and full-time faculty. This pie chart shows a distribution of the faculty who are appointed through the clinical departments, which are based at Mass General and the other affiliated institutions. And so of the 11,400 and so faculty, or 600 and so faculty, 10,700 and change are based at the hospitals. And you can see there that blue piece of the pie is MGH. You are the largest of the affiliates. And together with Brigham and Women's Hospital, you comprise about half of the faculty within the Faculty of Medicine. This shows the growth in percentage of women among full-time faculty, and the dates range, I know the numbers are kind of small at the bottom, but the dates range from 1980 to the present. So currently, the top line, the blue line, is the line for instructor, and we are at about 50% women for instructors these days and have been for the last several years. Assistant professors are pretty close behind, so 47% currently are women. Associate professors and professors, we have a ways to go. So associate professors currently, that's the green line, we have about 33, about a third of the associate professors are women. And then professors, it's 21%. The next chart shows minority full-time faculty, same date range. The blue bars are faculty who are underrepresented in medicine, so that would include Black, Hispanic, and Native American faculty. And then Asians or Pacific Islanders are minorities. They're not considered underrepresented in medicine, although I will say that they are underrepresented among leadership positions within the Faculty of Medicine. And so currently we have, there has been, growth, especially among the Asian and Pacific Islanders. We're currently at almost 21% of those, and this is across all faculty ranks. The underrepresented minorities, it has been a much slower climb, and we have a ways to go. Nationally, the average is about 8%, and we're at about 6%, so we are very interested in trying to change that going forward, and have been for a number of years. So now I'm going to talk about academic promotion. So you will have an annual career conference with a leader in your department. If you're in a small department, that conversation may be with your department head. If you're in a larger department, it will probably be with your division chief. And this is a great opportunity, regardless of where you are, whether you've recently been promoted or you think you're almost ready for promotion. It's a great opportunity to have a conversation with that person where do they see you? What do they think needs to happen for you to be promoted? And make sure you're on the same page around that. There's a tenure clock for some people within the Faculty of Medicine. The faculty who are appointed through the basic and social science departments that are based on the quadrangle in the Longwood area. So departments like genetics and cell biology. There are some of those faculty who are appointed through those departments but who serve here at MGH, and those people are on a tenure clock, and it's an 11-year tenure clock to get from assistant professor to full professor. But the vast majority of our faculty, those 10,000 plus who are appointed through the clinical departments based at the affiliates, are not on a tenure clock. You go up when your department head believes that you're ready to go up. And so, so the next thing I'll say is that there are no quotas. There's no, the departments don't have a certain number of people they need to or cannot promote each year. It's again when they decide that people are ready. And there's an online faculty handbook that our office has generated, which will help you identify contributions that support promotion, and details in that faculty handbook around the promotion process, around the criteria for promotion. You can read all about it in that handbook. We advise you to start working on your CV right away and to keep it up to date. We have templates and guides on our website, and every time you submit an abstract or a publication or are asked to serve on a committee or give a talk, go ahead and add it to your CV and keep a working copy. And then when it's time to turn it in for your annual career conference or for a grant application or anything, then you can go through and clean it up and sort of clear out the sections that are not filled in, but sort of have everything in your working group, because as your career progresses through the years, you are going to start doing activities that you're not doing now, and if you have that sort of working version, you'll be able to slot those into the right place. And then I want to point out that my colleagues and I within the Office for Faculty Affairs are available to speak to you or your department about promotion. There, again, on our website, there is a link where you can go and request to meet with somebody and go over your CV, talk about the promotion process. We make two requests if you do this. One, we request that you come to us, and we are in Gordon Hall over there at the Longwood Medical Area. And number two, we request that you make your best effort to generate a CV in the Harvard Faculty of Medicine format. And we're happy if you have questions, we're happy to go over those with you when we meet with you, but we ask you to make an effort to go through it once on your own. So this is a screenshot of our faculty handbook. That's what the cover looks like. Again, it's just a lot of detail. The handbook is over 100 pages in length. It talks about each rank. So there's information on instructor, assistant, associate, professor, on lectures, on the promotion criteria. So please, I encourage you to take a look. This is a slide that shows the current promotion criteria. And so if you start at the top, this is not for an instructor appointment, but it is for promotion to assistant, associate, and full professor. And so there are 3 areas of excellence, and each candidate and their department head, departments work together to select one area of excellence. Everybody needs to have one. The choices are clinical expertise in innovation, investigation, and teaching and educational leadership. If you go down to the middle then, everybody is expected to teach. All faculty need to teach, and so therefore all faculty are evaluated for teaching when they come up for promotion. And then at the bottom are 5 what we call significant supporting activities, and these are optional. And this is in recognition of the fact that many of our faculty wear multiple hats, and the belief that you should get credit for all of the activities that you do that are related to your professional life. And so the 5 significant supporting activities are administration and institutional service, clinical expertise, education of patients and service to the community, investigation, and special merit in education. And you may notice that 3 of them align with the 3 areas of excellence. So if you have investigation as your area of excellence, you won't have it as your significant supporting activity. But if you are an 80-20 kind of person and you spend 4 days a week in the working on your research and 1 day a week in the clinic, or the reverse, then you might have, if you have investigation as the area of excellence, you might have clinical expertise as a significant supporting activity. The other 2 significant supporting activities are administration and institutional service. This one is used a lot, especially as people move up in the ranks and they take on administrative leadership positions locally. And then the last one is education of patients and service to the community. That is the one that's probably used the least, but for some people, a significant component of their work is interacting with the lay community and patients, beyond patient care, but educating patients. So a little bit more about the teaching requirements. I mentioned that all faculty are expected to teach. And this is true for those of you who have full-time appointments and also part-time appointments. So you need to document at least 50 hours of teaching a year, and that you need to teach Harvard learners. Now, teaching is defined fairly broadly. You can teach students, grad students, medical students, undergraduate students at Harvard. You can teach fellows, postdocs, residents. You can also teach your peers, other faculty. But they need to be Harvard learners. So this includes clinical and research supervision. So it's not just standing up and giving a lecture. If you're an attending physician or a clinical preceptor, you get credit for that. If you are running a research enterprise, a lab or some other research endeavor, and you're mentoring other people's research, you get credit for that. So the time you spend mentoring other people's research is part of that 50 hours. So many of our faculty exceed the 50 hours easily, sometimes within a week or 2. But occasionally there are some faculty who have fewer opportunities, and so it is something to pay attention to. And as I said a minute ago, it's also important to document it in your CV, because when your CV does come in for and you're being considered for promotion, that is one thing that the reviewers will look at. I should say that teaching is for, if you are giving lectures, it's for direct contact hours only. It doesn't actually include prep time at this juncture. And then you don't need to be the official supervisor. So if you are an instructor or an assistant professor and you're still under the umbrella of, say, a large research lab, and the head of the PI of the lab is the formal supervisor of a graduate student or a postdoc, and you are asked to sort of take that person under your wing, and you're asked to mentor them and help supervise their research. You're not their official supervisor, but you certainly can list them and take credit for that teaching that you're doing when you're mentoring them. And I've already mentioned the importance of documenting it. So just one more thing about Harvard learners. So if you are invited to give a lecture at Boston University or Tufts, or if you're invited to give a CME talk that's organized through your National Professional Society, that's teaching, but it's not teaching of Harvard learners. And so that would go in the section of your CV where you talk about a regional talk at BU or Tufts, or a national talk through your professional society. But it wouldn't count towards your 50 hours. It does count toward your regional or national reputation. This is a little bit about the assistant and associate professor promotion process. And so all promotions start at the level of the department. Nobody within the Faculty of Medicine can nominate themselves for promotion. You must be nominated by your department head. So it starts there. And it goes from there often to an executive committee. So Harvard Medical School, for example, is a very complicated environment. There are 4 different departments of surgery. There's one here at Mass General, but there's another one at Beth Israel Deaconess, another one at Boston Children's, and another one at Brigham and Women's. So the heads of surgery, there are 4 heads of surgery at those 4 institutions, and they come together and form an executive committee. And the executive committees weigh in on all faculty appointments at the rank of assistant professor and above. So from your department, it goes to the executive committee, and then it comes to our office at Harvard Medical School, where there's an initial review, and then the P&R committee, that stands for promotion and reappointment, although they really review these, that's historical. They review promotions, they don't review reappointments. They review all promotions to assistant and associate professor within the Faculty of Medicine. And they make a recommendation to the dean, who then makes a recommendation to the provost at the university, who then informs us of the final decision, and we notify the department. Now, there's a separate promotion process for full professor. It starts and ends the same, starts in the department, goes to the executive committee, comes to our office, and it ends with review by a standing committee. Instead of the P&R committee, it's called the Subcommittee of Professors. And they make a recommendation to the dean, who makes a recommendation to the provost, who informs us of the final decision. But the process for promotion to full professor is extended in the middle. There are more steps in the middle than simply going to that one committee. And the details for that are in the faculty handbook. There are flowcharts that outline all of the steps. So I wanted to say something about the MGH affiliated faculty who serve in leadership positions within the Faculty of Medicine. And so this is a list of faculty who serve on one of 3 promotion committees. I mentioned the P&R committee, and I mentioned the Subcommittee of Professors, or SOP, so there are a number of people on this slide who serve on each of those committees. There's a 3rd committee I haven't mentioned. It's called the Longer Service Committee. This is a subcommittee of the P&R committee. And the Longer Service Committee reviews candidates for promotion from instructor to assistant professor. And the difference between the Longer Service Subcommittee and the P&R Committee is that the P&R Committee reviews candidates for whom scholarship is a requirement for promotion. The Longer Service Committee reviews candidates who have been at the rank of instructor for at least 10 years, and they've increased their level of teaching and citizenship during that period, but there's no requirement for scholarship for that promotion. There is no Longer Service Committee for going above assistant professor, although if somebody is promoted to assistant professor by the Longer Service criteria, and then they start producing scholarship after that, they could be promoted to associate professor via the P&R committee. So again, all of the people on this slide serve on one of those 3 committees. There also are a number of medical education leaders within the Faculty of Medicine who come from MGH. And so you see a listing of them here, and they serve a variety of roles, from faculty assistant dean for student affairs to co-director of the Division of Health Sciences and Technology, HST, to advisor and associate director of the Francis Weld Peabody Society, and other roles that you see here. So there are opportunities from people at MGH and the other affiliates to serve in leadership roles at the medical school around education. This slide highlights one of our faculty development offerings, and that is a faculty orientation and resource fair. Now this one, it's coming up next week. It's October 22nd, so I do want to emphasize that the registration is closed for this year. There will be another one next year. You should have received at least one email, hopefully, advertising this. I will say, if you're interested and you didn't get a chance to register, if you go to our website, there will be a link that will allow you, it's going to be live streamed, and there will be a link that will allow you to access that the day of the event, which is Tuesday, October 22nd. The next event I'd like to highlight is our leadership course. So this is a course for instructors, assistant professors, and associate professors who have been at that rank for no more than 3 years. So emerging leaders. It's usually held in March. It is a 3-day event held over in the Longwood area. The application for this year is actually today at 5 p.m. But again, since you can do this at for multiple years at multiple ranks. If you missed it this year, you have an opportunity to think about that next year. You can apply directly, but you do need your department to endorse you for that course. And I've sat in on a number of the lectures there, and it's actually really valuable and well received. The course receives high ratings every year. And then the last event I wanted to highlight is the last topic I wanted to highlight is that the Eleanor and Miles Shore Faculty Development Awards Program. So these are awards that are for, again, junior faculty, so instructors or assistant professors. There is an RFA that's going to go out for these awards in November. And the application, I believe it says on there, I think it's due in January. These awards most of them are 1 year and $30,000. There are some that are slightly larger, but most of them are that range. And if you want more information on them, you can go to our website for details. I believe many of them are associated with particular departments, and so I believe about 8 of the awards are for faculty, open to faculty at MGH, and about 6 of them are linked to specific departments, but there are others. So again, if you go to our website and take a look at these, you'll see a full listing. The next slide shows the Joint Committee on the Status of Women. This is a group that has been active since, I believe, the 1970s. They meet once a month over at the medical school. Although it is called the Joint Committee on the Status of Women, there are both women and men who are part of this organization, and women and men are both very welcome. Some of their events are live streamed, so again, if you want to just take a look and click on the link and see what's coming up, but it's an opportunity to interact with, it's called the Joint Committee because it's both faculty and staff, and to interact with other people from, across the Faculty of Medicine, again, across the School of Dental Medicine and the Harvard Medical School. Oops, sorry. So I just wanted to quickly highlight 3 other opportunities, other Harvard resources that aren't managed by our office, but that are available to you. The first one is Harvard Catalyst. This is a clinical and translational science center. They offer courses related to clinical and translational research, research consulting, and funding opportunities. The Faculty Foundation Funds, this is a program, there are many awards that are given by private foundations where the Harvard Medical School or Harvard University actually has to nominate somebody for that award. And so there's an internal competitive process to determine who Harvard Medical School and who Harvard University is going to nominate, and that is the Faculty Foundation Funds process. So again, I encourage you to take a look and Google that and look at the specifics. And then finally, the Academy. So the Academy is an organization for professional development for faculty who teach in the MD program. So if you are interested in teaching in the MD program and you would like to learn more about how to be a better teacher, then this is the place to go. So those of you who are in the Faculty of Medicine and sit at one of the affiliates like MGH, you really have dual citizenship. You're a member of the MGH community, but you are also a member of the Faculty of Medicine. And this allows you to enjoy your extraordinary colleagues not only here at MGH, but throughout the Harvard community. Opportunities to teach exceptional students, leadership roles through at HMS, through education or through leadership or research. Library resources, the Countway Library and the online version of that. Potential collaborations around research, particularly, but other around education. Faculty development programs like the ones I mentioned, and then connections to the larger university across the river. And also to the Harvard's, the Chan School of Public Health, which is over at the Longwood campus right next to our campus. And then the reach of the Harvard name and recognition that comes with that. So lastly, I want to point out that our handbook, in addition to having information about the promotion process, Also has a number of policies that apply to people within the Faculty of Medicine. So this is around authorship guidelines, use of the Harvard name, integrity in science, unprofessional relationships and abuse of authority, the use of social media, and sexual harassment. So there's a lot of information in this handbook, and please do take a look at it. And lastly, again, just welcome. Welcome to this larger community, and we hope that you will take advantage of all that it has to offer. And thank you for your time.
Any questions for Bethany? Covered all the points. Bethany, thanks very much. We're getting near the end of our program. How are you holding up? Do we need to promote resilience, wellness? Or do we need to generate more caffeinated beverages? So what we're going to do in the last two small segments is to talk a little bit about the practical details of getting your CV together and thinking about promotion and using the resources here at the hospital. So I know that many of you have been at the MGH in one or more capacities for a while, and others are here for the first time. How many of you have your CV in the Harvard format? It's most of you, but it's not all of you. Do you think your Harvard-style CV is perfectly done? So I've never met anybody who has a perfectly formatted HMS CV. It's unbelievably difficult to get it all just right. And I'm sure Bethany would agree with this. So what I think you all should do is not only use the instructions and the templates that the medical school offers about its CV, but think about another strategy if your CV is not close to being done yet, and that is ask someone in your department who has an area of excellence like yours, who has a similar style of information inside, and have them send it to you in Word format, and then cut and paste your information into their CV, and be sure to delete their information. That's the fastest way that I've seen for anybody to update their own CV and to revise it. Because the toughest thing for just about everybody, even very, very smart people who are technically savvy, is getting all the columns to line up correctly with the left justified margins, not both left and right justified, to get the spacings just right and the abbreviations consistent with the right number of 2-digit months and 4-digit years. There are an endless numbers of things that could be changed. And the bottom line behind all this, from my perspective, is that the better your CV looks, that is, the more it looks style-wise like everyone else's, the faster it is for the reviewers of your CV to get through it without getting irritated. And if somebody's reviewing your CV for the possibility of promotion, and they strain and furrow their brow and have to work to figure out where things belong and why it's out of order, human nature being what it is, they will start to look for things that are wrong or misplaced, and it will work against you and your promotion. So the better you can make it look like everybody else's, to make somebody be able to get through your entire CV, even when it's more than 50 pages long, and get it done in 2 to 3 minutes, that works well. So how can you possibly read somebody's CV in 2 to 3 minutes? And if you do that, it'll be because the CV has certain templated categories that everybody looks for. So you should do your CV now. You should do it even before your annual career conference. You should do it before you're ready for promotion, or you might be ready for promotion, because If you do it earlier in your career, it's easier to fill out. And then the updating will take less and less time. So don't wait until you think you're ready or your lab supervisor or division chief says you're ready. Do it now and start to update it. Now, on the slide here, it says update it every 3 to 6 months. But there are lots of people in our system that update it every day they do something new. That would drive me crazy. I don't do that. There are other people that say, let's do it every year. And if you do that, undoubtedly you will forget things that you've actually done. If you do it every quarter, you'll probably still miss things. So a regular interval of 1 month probably means you would spend 5 to 10 minutes total updating your CV, and then it wouldn't feel like torture. So I would say, get it done now, update it every month, and in 10 minutes, torture-free, you'll get it going the right way. Now, the Harvard CV doesn't look like this slide looks. This is just a list of categories that show you the type of information that are in your CV, and most of you know this because most of you have already put your CV into the Harvard format. The Harvard CV style looks different than every other CV from around the country, in part because it uses a multiple column approach. But if you understand what the columns are, it will make sense and make it easy to do. The left-hand column is always for the years or the month or the date. It's always the time. The right-hand column is always the place in which it was done. And the middle columns, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 middle columns, is the details of what goes on, with almost no free text in the entire Harvard CV. The only free text that exists in the Harvard-style CV is the last page called the narrative. And the narrative is like a structured abstract of a journal article that instead of background, objective, methods, results, and so forth, here it's introduction, a 4, 5, or 6 line description of who you are and how you got here. There's a paragraph called area of excellence, whether it's area of excellence, investigation, or area of excellence, clinical expertise and innovation, or area of excellence, teaching. And I strongly recommend that you use these headers like you would in a structured journal article abstract, because it makes it easier for somebody to read the content that's in that section. Even if you lose a line for the header and a line for a line space, it makes it much easier to read. And you want easy readability. After your introduction, your area of excellence, your next paragraph is going to be teaching. And try your best to separate your material of area of excellence from your teaching. And then, as Bethany said, you have these voluntary supporting activities. So if you're an investigator, you could support it with clinical expertise. You could support it with education of patients and service to the community. You could support it with administration and institutional service. You don't need those, but the more supporting activity stuff you have, the less you will be expected to develop in your area of excellence. So everything counts. No part of the buffalo goes wasted. It doesn't all count equally, but it all counts. And if you think about those domains, it'll be much, much easier to do. Everything that you've ever done has a place in the Harvard CV. Your challenge is to figure out which category to put it in without double recording it in different categories. And sometimes it's nearly impossible to figure out which category it absolutely should go into. And you can check with 10 experts and you'll get at least 8 different answers about what categories some things go into. When it comes to the narrative, for many people, this is one of the toughest parts of the CV to do. The first thing I would say is for length requirements. For assistant professor candidates, you get 1 page. single-spaced. Associate professor candidates, you get 1.5 pages. Professor candidates get 2 pages. And it's not easy to describe your entire career in 1.5, or 2 pages, but that's what's expected. And Harvard wants it all in the first person. I, me, my. Not Dr. Stern is it's all I am, my career, and so forth. That's awkward for many people, but that's the expectation of the medical school CV readers. We've talked about the structure of the narrative. There are lots of ways that you can get help and assistance with the CV preparation. Bethany talked about their office, the Office of Faculty Affairs, being able to do consultations. But our Center for Faculty Development also does individual consultations as well as larger sessions on how to develop these things. And we have created templates for how to write your narrative. So you should be able to complete your entire narrative in final version in less than 1 hour with the benefit of these narratives with templates that I've modeled after the Child's Game Mad Libs. So there are blanks in the template for you to put in the missing noun or task that you've done, and the Dean's Office has not objected to the fact that hundreds of people at the MGH use these words, because these words are about 80% the same in everybody's CV, and it works. So until the Dean's Office complains, I know that it works, and that makes it easier for all of you. Does that make sense? So how many of you are going to work on your CV this week? How many of you are being honest? Okay. And there are lots of other resources at the Office of Faculty Affairs, Center for Faculty Development, where these templates are there. And there are other people in our system right now who are working on new electronic strategies to get your CV done even more efficiently than we're doing right now. And probably within the next few months, those newer spiffy programs will be rolled out. They're working out the final details. So thank you for the discussion of the CVs, and we're here to help you with all that. Questions about the CV? Okay. So next up, we have the final few minutes, and Brenda will open up the program for this. And just as we're getting these slides lined up here, remember, you've got lots of information. There'll be more information online where some of the slide decks will be available. There are also evaluation forms available in your packets that we hope that you fill out, because with your feedback, we can refine the program to help others who will be in the same position as you are in the next upcoming time frame. So this session was sponsored by the Center for Faculty Development, of which there are 3 main domains. There's the Office of Clinical Careers that I direct. There's an Office of Research Career Development that Dennis Brown directs. There's a Graduate Student Division that Karen Miller is now the interim director for. There's a postdoctoral division that Marcia Goldberg oversees. And there's another Office for Women's Careers that Nancy Rigatti directs. Each of us provide one-on-one consultation, but each of us also oversee and orchestrate a variety of programs to help people understand the issues, dilemmas, or problems in those areas. And all told, we do more than 100 programs a year that are usually at the lunchtime area or the late afternoon area, but some are in the morning time. We're increasingly trying to do live stream and archive programs so you can access these programs even if you can't get there. We're expanding our reach not just from the MGH main campus, but into the Navy Yard and Simcas and other sites so that not everybody has to travel to the mothership for these programs. And if you think about the range of programs that are out there, and we advertise these programs, of which more than 2,500 members of the faculty have been attending each year, you can learn more about how to work in your clinical or research area to be more successful and productive and make connections and build mentorship relationships as a mentee and as a mentor. And with all these educational resources, you'll be in a much stronger position to help others and learn the benefits of teaching, mentoring, oversight, and more. The topics that we've covered talk about academic advancement, grant writing, conduct of research, how to give presentations, how to be a better teacher, how to give feedback, how to be a better leader, how to be a better team player, as well as the one-on-one consultations. When it comes to CV preparation, readiness for promotion, we're happy to give you our objective opinions about what goes on, but we do not determine promotion decisions for your home department. That is up to the department, but we can give feedback and sometimes collaborate with your departments to help smooth out any dilemmas or disagreements about what goes on. So I would say, think about the resources, use the resources, don't be shy. These are free resources available to help you in your careers, because the better you feel about what you're doing, the easier and more efficient the work is, the better you'll feel, the more you'll do, the more you'll help others, and it will be an incredibly productive, life-sustaining cycle. To schedule appointments, you can send us emails, and soon we'll have up and running our new website with scheduling parameters to make things even more efficient for you. And I would just say, thank you for being here. Thank you for trying to learn more about the MGH, the physicians organization, the research community, all the different aspects of the Center for Faculty Development. We're here to be of help to you, and we hope that you thrive, flourish, enjoy, and more. Questions, comments, jokes? Hearing none, fill out your evaluation forms. Use the extra few minutes wisely. Have fun. Take care. We'll be around. And my last parting comment is, I want to have all of you give it up big for the people in the Center for Faculty Development that made this happen. Brenda, Liz, Nicole, and Anna, this program could not have been done and carried out seamlessly without their help, guidance, and support. So thank all of you.